What kinds of jobs did you have since first arriving in the country?
We were gardeners and we were cleaning offices.
I remember the
You
offices.
remember that? We had the night shift cleaning. That's why, we had to take you and your brother. I didn't have a babysitter.
I have memories of running into everyone's office and eating candy from their candy dishes. I remember being with my brother in our pajamas with the little plastic feet. And I also remember you would always buy us a cup of noodle from the vending machine, right? Like a snack, and then put us to bed on people's office couches, and then you'd carry us to the car when you guys were done cleaning the offices. I remember that. Did your bosses ever know that you took your kids?
No, I don't think so.
Is there anything that you've never told me but want to tell me now?
When we first came here, we went through a lot of things like not eating. I guess for 6 months your father lost his job, but we never told you that.
I do remember a lot of bean tacos.
But when you ask us why the same thing, remember?
Yeah.
I didn't want to tell you why.
Yeah. If you could do everything again, would you raise me differently?
I would dedicate more time, I guess. I was so busy going to school too that I guess I neglected you a little bit.
No, for me, watching you go to school with 2 kids and trying to make ends meet, that was the biggest inspiration for me to finish college. I thought there's nothing that could stand in my way that didn't stand in yours more. It's the most important thing for me, having gone to college, and I feel like anything I do from here on out is okay because I've already achieved my dream. Everything else is icing on the cake.
I went there for 2 years with a minister named Reverend J.J. Simmons. The white men, they would not let us register to vote. They would sit there. They had tables, and they would be playing dominoes. I didn't even know how to play dominoes. But do you know I learned to play standing there watching them? They would ask you silly questions like this man, I never will forget his name, Mr. Cox. He was chair of the board of registrars. He asked me, how many black jelly beans in a jar? How many red ones in there? And I told him, you don't know how many jelly beans. He told me to shut my black mouth. Shut up. Well, the next Monday, I told Reverend Simmons that I was not going back. I said, because I'm not going to be embarrassed like that anymore. He said, you want to vote, don't you? I said, yes. He said, we're going to go until the building falls down. So we're going to be there every time they open that door. He said, now in the morning, I'll be about to pick you up. You going. And that is the day Mr. Cox asked me to recite part of the preamble to the Constitution. I don't really think he knew, but I recited it. He said, you're going to pass today because we are tired of looking at your black faces. And then he gave me my slip that I was a registered voter. We did vote in the next election. It was a joy. But the thing about it is, I didn't feel it should have been this hard. I knew it shouldn't have been this hard.
My daddy was elected mayor twice, and I used to walk down the streets holding his hand. Everybody'd stop and pat me on the head and said, "How you doing, little mayor?" Yeah, I had a wonderful daddy. And when I was about 14, he said, "Son, look, you come from a long line of chronic alcoholics. I'm an alcoholic just waiting for the first drink, and I refuse to take it." He said, "If you do, you'll get away with it for a while, but it'll destroy your life and probably kill you." And he said, "I want you to remember that." I said, "Okay, Daddy, I'll give it serious thought." I gave it enough thought that Halloween, I went trick-or-treating with my buddy, and we passed a horseshoe of frat houses. Those kids knew who I was. Everybody knew who my daddy was. And one of them frat boys said, "Hey, you ever had a drink?" And I said, "No, I hadn't." He said, "Now, you drink this, it's going to burn. You're going to like this." I never felt so good in my life. As long as I had alcohol in my system, I was what I always wanted to be, a self-confident, good-looking, witty human being. And it worked very well for 40-some more years of my life.
Must take a lot of self-discipline to turn around.
Well, it took more than that. I had just been released for my 28th treatment for alcoholism. The doctor told me when I left that I'll give you 2 weeks and I'll read your name in the obituaries. So I went to the cemetery where my mother and daddy were buried and let them know that I'm sober and going to die this way. So then I came on down to a place I knew where there's an exit ramp where cars come around. I held a sign there, and that's where I met you. Every time you came by, you'd stick out a $2 bill and a can of tuna fish. And it was New Year's Eve, and I had nowhere to go, couldn't drink, everybody's partying. And you walked out nowhere and said, "Remember me?" I said, "Yeah, you're the $2 bill man." He said, "I'm going to take you home with me for a New Year's Eve party. How would you like that?" I said, "I don't think that would work, sir. You got a wife? She's going to have a lot to say to you about bringing a homeless, smelly old man home with you." You said, "My wife will receive you well." I went to your home and had a shower, and you gave me some clean clothes, and we sat down at the table, and I told you some stories about who I really was and who my daddy was. There was a lot more to me than you might imagine.
I hope I was a little bit of a help along your path.
Well, you know, David, without your kindness and of your family and all, I don't know. I wouldn't say I'd have gone back drinking again, but I'd say it would have been rough.
I always have a note card in my pocket that tells me what the date is. And I have to write down when I eat meals because sometimes I might eat lunch 3 times because I don't remember that I ate already. The doctors say the brain can continue healing up to 2 years, but whatever is not back by that point is not likely to ever come back.
So you had your surgery in November of 2008, right?
Right. And so I'm going to have to live the rest of my life this way. And the thing that scares me the most is like the thought that I will wake up one day and I'll be 80 years old and I won't remember the last 40 years of my life.
Do you remember when you first came out of surgery?
I know that I used to always think that I was in San Francisco.
What are those things called? Do you remember?
Confabulations.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you remember another confabulation that I used to have?
You used to think that your coworker Barbara was your mom.
That's right.
Even though she's a completely different race than you.
That's funny, yeah.
There was one point where you were confused because you thought we had broken up. And I would ask you, like, why do you think you're staying at my place? She's like, well, we're just